All right, let's get started. Welcome to episode 89 of Woolen Spinning. My name is Rachel. I can be found pretty much everywhere as well for pearls. As you can see, show is a live stream show. I come to you twice a month, and we live stream the show to our Patreon supporters. Thank you to you guys for being here and for participating. The show will go out later today for all of you guys, for those who missed the show, and then in a couple of days, the show goes live for everyone. Well, not live, but it gets released for everybody. I have a couple of things to give away today. A bunch of patterns from Kelly, who's a Patreon member, and thank you to Kelly for providing those for us. I have some fiber that I wanted to give away, and I left it over there, so I'm going to have to run and grab it. And I have a bunch of projects to talk about. I have a new tool that I added to my arsenal of spinning tools, I guess you could say, and I thought I would share that with you today. I don't normally acquire big tools, but I have this time around. So I also have some spins to talk about, so we may as well just jump right into the show. The first thing I want to talk about was a little bit of housekeeping. I just wanted to say really quickly, for those who haven't had a chance, we do have book club going on in the Ravelry group. We are studying A Stash of One's Own by Clara Parks. There is a Ravelry thread that everybody can chat about, and there's also a Slack chat. You can just chat. There's a Slack channel for the book club. So I think when you look at your tabs on the left hand side, I think it's hashtag book club. And what we're doing is, as you guys read the book and as you ruminate on your own stash and think about what stash means to you, you can pop into the Ravelry group and in the book club thread and put your own essay around stash in there for us to read. I will be featuring them on the blog over the next coming months, so don't hesitate. Please don't be shy and pop in there whenever you want. And yeah, I hope that you're able to share what stash means to you. There's been a few thrown in there already, and so I hope that you guys continue to throw those in. We have some pattern giveaways. So this is from Kelly G Knits. I randomly drew 5 people from the January episode thread, and in no particular order. The posts that won were post number 11, post number 29, number 24, number 1, and number 14. So I have the coupon codes that Kelly needed to for you guys to plug in. So when you choose a pattern from her Ravelry store, and then you just plug in the coupon code, and then you'll get the pattern for free. So Lane Hampton won, Eve Ollie Cobb, congratulations Eve, Miss Grape Ape won, Kai won, congratulations Kai, and Dahlem. So I will message you guys all on Ravelry because you need that coupon code from me, and Kelly sent them to me already. So I'll just go in this afternoon and plug those in for you guys. So congratulations to everybody, and thank you to Kelly for the giveaway. She has some gorgeous patterns to pick from, so please have a look at our Ravelry store. We have a calendar giveaway that we do every month, and I draw from the patron community for this. Before I go any further, and because I will forget, Robin's was our winner last month. Robin, I haven't sent out your calendar yet, and it's the reason is so silly. I have no printer ink, so I can't print the shipping label. So my husband bought a cartridge. It's sitting right here. We just need to throw the cartridge in and then print the shipping labels. So those will go out in the next couple of days. And the calendars look like this. And the ones that are going out right now are, they start in July. So it's not like you need it right this second because you're not going to miss anything. But that's what they look like. So every month has an inspirational photo, and you can keep it on your desk, and you can look at it and think about spinning yarn. Anyways, this month's winner is Kim Ramey, Crafty Kimmer. Congratulations, Kim. And actually, you live in California. I already have your address, so you don't need to send that to me. I'll just pop that in the mail with Robin's when my printer cartridge gets changed. So congratulations. Let me grab the fiber that is for our giveaway this month. It's a little bit of a different one. I have had this in my stash for quite a long time, and I haven't gotten to it. I don't think I am going to get to it because I'm just so overwhelmed with everything that I have. And so I thought, you know what, let's do a giveaway and give this away. So this is a some pin drafted roving from Sheep Spot, and it is Monte top. It's 100 grams. This is going to be going out to somebody on the first week of March, I guess. So not next show, but the show after. And all you need to do is pop into the February episode thread in the Ravelry group and say, who are your favorite people to spin with? Who are your favorite people to spin with? Do you like spinning by yourself? Do you like spinning with your spouse or your partner sitting next to you? Do you like to spin with your friends? Do you like to spin at the guild? Anyways, so that is the prompt for this month. Pop into the February episode thread. It will be linked in the show notes at patreon.com/wellforpearls or at wellforpearls.com. So that will be going to somebody special. You can be this is open to everybody. Patron, non-patron, doesn't matter. This is open to everybody. So pop into the Ravelry group. Make sure that you're a member, and yeah, I hope that you win. And it's this Monte is really cool. It's very spongy. It feels very downy. I think it would be great for some socks. And this was dyed by Sasha of Sheep Spot, and she's based in Ontario. So yeah, very cool. Pop that somewhere to keep it safe. So I have a ton of stuff to talk about. I'm just looking at the chat. Let me just get this stuff out of the way. Let me start with this because I'm quite excited to share it with you and I don't want to forget. So last week I talked about this finished spin. This is a BFL silk. It's Sweet George Yarns. It was off of the second shelf. I can't remember. I think it was that the blue wasn't right or something on the dye. It wasn't quite like this. If you bought this colorway now, and you bought, this is Pacific Spirit, if you bought this and had it dyed and sent to you, it would look the blues would be a little bit different, or the length of the repeat or something would be different. Anyways, I finished this last week and I shared it with you guys. And here was my very, very badly done Spinner's Control card. I don't have the singles. I never wrap the singles around. And I actually cabled the my little 2-ply sample. And it was so loosely done that like it's kind of fallen apart. But at least it's got all of the quick and dirty stuff on it that I need. How I spun it and the ratio that I used. Because this is part of a bigger spin. I think I mentioned this last week. That is part of I'm hoping that it's gonna be a bigger weaving project. Anyways, the reason why I wanted to talk about this yarn one more time is because last week, and I don't know if you guys will remember, when I shared this with you, I hadn't washed it yet, and it twisted on itself once or twice, and you probably didn't see it on the screen, partially because the screen is 2-dimensional, it's flat. Whereas I'm seeing the yarn in 3-dimensional. This is where like 3D recording would be awesome. Like if you guys had like, glasses on and everything. Anyways, the yarn was really flat. It didn't have any sproing to it. And when I felt it, it was quite, it almost felt a bit lifeless. I didn't put a ton of ply twist into this. You can see where it's marling that the ply twist is quite gentle. It's about 30 to 35 degrees for the twist angle. And part of the reason for that is because if I don't weave with this, I spun the singles really high twist, so it'll withstand being able to be woven with. But if I do end up knitting some lace with it, I wanted those yarn overs to really open up and to really bloom. And so I kept my twist angle really gentle. Anyways, I washed it this past week. After recording, I popped it into the bath right away, and oh my goodness, the yarn just like, you could see it in the water as it took up the water. It literally just came back to life. And I think a lot of it's because I put a lot of twist into my singles, and then when I applied it, it was quite gentle, so it wasn't balancing the twist, the degree of twist that I put into the singles. It didn't match what I put into the ply twist, and it just left the yarn kind of lifeless and flat looking. It has a beautiful sheen because of the silk, and of course the BFL is the long wool. But anyways, after washing, it really poofed up. I didn't thwack this or snap it or anything. I just washed it, pulled it out of the water, rolled it in some towels, and then hung it up. So yeah, really beautiful. And it just, I wanted to share that because if you guys go quickly back to last episode, to episode 88, and look at the yarn, there is a big difference. And I don't think I took any pictures of the before and after, and I should have. I'm not sure if you would have been able to see it. But anyways, it just turned out really beautifully, and it just goes to show you need to finish your yarns to really see them really come to life and, you know, really, I don't know, come to life. There's a word I'm looking for. I can't think of it. I'm quite tired. It's been a crazy week. I was saying to Sharon before we started the live stream, this is one of those weeks where like everything falls on one week. So like I'm always out Thursday nights, no matter what, because I've got James has swimming lessons and I have piano. So not a big deal, whatever. It's one night a week. But this week we have stuff every single night, and it's so weird because that never happens. But this week is one of those weeks where all the things were scheduled on one week. So I'm just feeling a bit tired, and it's just the way it is. And then James was up last night too, so it doesn't help. Anyways, sidetracked. How do you decide to thwack or snap yarn? Oh, so Cindy's wondering whether or not, like when I decide whether I'm going to thwack or snap and when I don't, I'm assuming. Just if I get that question wrong, Cindy, please just say. So I will often not snap yarn. Okay, so I don't thwack if I don't want to rough it up. So as soon as you thwack your yarn, so that's where you take this skein and it's soaking wet, and I often will fold mine in half and then you throw it down like that, and you thwack it like way harder, and it's wet, of course. It roughs up the surface of the yarn. So let me just switch the cameras around. I always forget. You guys have to like prompt me. So this is worsted because I spun it worsted. I spun it short backward. Maybe I spun it short forward. I included a video of how I spun this in the show a couple of episodes ago, so you can go back and have a look at episode 87. I think it was included. Is that right, you guys? And so I was doing and I was smoothing as I went. So it was a very worsted spun yarn, and I wanted to preserve that smoothness. I didn't want to rough it up by thwacking it against a surface and roughing up the edges of the yarn. And because of the BFL being a slightly longer stapled fiber, I find with BFL over time it gets a bit fuzzy anyways, even if it's high twist. I think it's just the way the fiber is. It doesn't stay in my opinion, as smooth as something like Wensleydale or Tunis. That's just, you know, even more longer stapled fiber. So when you thwack, it really roughs stuff up. Like if you think about taking a yarn like this that's nice and smooth, or as smooth as it's going to be, and then go and thwack it against the side of like a brick wall, it's going to rough it up, right? Great for woolen yarns because that's what locks the fibers together. But with worsted yarns, I do often thwack them because I like my yarns to be a little bit roughed up, and I'm thwacking against tile, so it's not too bad. But when you do that, you're roughing up the edges of your yarn. So with this, I didn't want to do that. So I knew I was going to thwack. And then for snapping is where you take the skein and you're trying to redistribute the twist. So you take the skein like this and you literally like pull it outward. And the idea is that it redistributes the twist, and it actually, like, you know, as you make your way around the skein, you know, you snap it, go to the next little bit, snap it, and you go all the way around once or twice, and you're redistributing the twist. That's kind of the idea. what I find with snapping when my yarns don't have tons and tons of twist in them, so this yarn only twisted on itself once, I find snapping, this is just my own personal, what I have found, it's still a waste of time. When you've only got that one twist, it doesn't make a big difference. If you remember that purple yarn that I spun, it was the Sweet Georgia, the Amethyst, it was a high twist 3-ply for socks. I snapped that and I went all the way around. And the reason is because the finished skein twisted on itself like 3 or 4 times. So there was a lot of active twist in there. And as soon as yarn hits the water, I always think of it as like hitting the deck. As soon as it hits the water, even if it's been resting on your bobbins for a while, all that twist is reactivated in the water. So you'll find like you'll have a really nicely relaxed skein because it's been sitting on your nitty knotty or it's been sitting on your bobbin for a while. And then all of a sudden you put it in the water and it just goes right away. That's because the water reactivates all that twist. So with a skein like that that's so heavily twisted and that has all that excess in it, I do redistribute the twist and I try to go all the way around. And the reason for that is because otherwise I find personally I get like curly cues in the skein otherwise. So you'll have like the skein will be seen there and then you'll end up with like these little curly cues like that in the yarn. And it'll be like curled on itself like that. And I find if you snap it, those really high twist skeins, it minimizes that. But with a yarn like this, low ply twist, it's already pretty balanced. I don't need to redistribute the twist. So that's why I didn't thwack this skein and why I didn't bother snapping it. I hope that helps. Does that answer that question? So with this one, I just rolled it in a towel and I hung it up to dry. Does it reactivate the twist every time the yarn gets wet or just the first time? Every time you get yarn wet, it reactivates the twist. So if it's not in a piece of fabric, like if it's not knitted or it's not woven, it'll reactivate the twist. But the interesting thing is that every time the twist gets more and more set. So it's not going to, like I had to rewash some yarn recently for our Weavers and Spinners Guild for our Christmas sale, and I rewashed the yarn and it didn't reactivate like it had. It was very tame, and that was because the twist had already been set. So that's something that you can play around with, like, you know, on any yarn that's like that really high twist amethyst that I was just talking about, that purple one. You know, after it's set and it's dry, wash it again and see what happens in the water. You'll probably find it won't get as active as it was because now you've sort of set the twist. That yarn is superwash though, and it does make me wonder if, because the thing is, so superwash in particular, if it sits for a long time, it almost like loses some of its twist. And I've started throwing that yarn back through my wheel and re-washing it before I go to knit with it, because it's almost like the twist relaxes. And we've talked about that in the past on the podcast, on one of these live streams. We talked about that, and that was other people's experience as well. I think Becca noticed that with her yarns. The longer they sit, the less twist they have. And especially with superwash for me personally. And I've had to reactivate them and put them back through the wheel, reply them, and then rewash them. So I'm just going to look and see what other questions we have. So if it is very twisty, snapping does as much as thwacking or for getting rid of excess twist energy. So thwacking is more for setting those fibers and getting those fibers to interlock together. So thwacking is more for like when you thwack it, those fibers lock together, and it's almost kind of like you're fuzzing it up a little tiny bit. That's why it's great for woolen, low twist woolen style yarns. Whereas with snapping, you're actually moving that twist around. So you're actually getting that twist to redistribute around the skein more evenly. So on a high twist worsted spun yarn, I will snap. I won't necessarily thwack. Because again, it's going to rough up the outside. And if it's a worsted spun yarn, I maybe don't want it to get roughed up on the outside. I just want to redistribute that twist. So a little bit different. You lose a lot of your ply twist in particular in the water. So when you pull that soaking wet skein out, you'll notice a lot of that twist is gone. It just dissipates in the water and a lot of that energy leaves the yarn. So with a yarn like this, for example, I didn't need to do a lot and redistribute that twist because it was already gone. It was already perfectly balanced. So I hope that helps. Every time you get it wet, yeah, although once it is knit up or woven, yeah, so Becca's right. I'd kind of alluded to that, and then I got talking about other stuff. When you knit with a yarn, even if it's a high twist yarn, or when you weave with yarn, it stabilizes the twist. With weaving on the loom, the yarn is held under pressure. So that helps to relax the yarn as well, because it's sitting there for probably a certain length of time. And then when you go to finish it, it's got all of that other energy from all of that other, the other stabilizing fibers that hold it together and keep it from moving. Knitting's the same way, especially if you're knitting really highly dense, like socks, for example. It's one of the reasons why I think socks need to be knit quite tightly if you're wanting that high twist yarn to stabilize. Could you snap and thwack? Absolutely. I snap and thwack pretty much all of my yarns. It's really unusual that I didn't do either. And yes, blocking reactivates the twist and it sets it. So if you are plying with rested singles, so let's say they sat on your bobbins for like several weeks and now they've kind of lost their twist. That twist is still in there. It's just deactivated. It's because the bobbins have rested. As soon as those bobbins and those singles hit the water, before, like if you, let's say you aren't going to ply them and you're just going to leave them as singles, as soon as they hit the water, they're going to right back up again. So if you go to ply it, you need to make sure you put enough ply twist in to match that twist that's deactivated in the singles. It's why it's really important to have samples, so that you know what you're plying to if you don't get to the plying right away. Because people often underply their yarns if their singles have been sitting for a while because there's not enough, that twist is deactivated. I never thought to add more twist to my yarn and then reblock it. Yeah, you'll find the more you spin and the longer you've been spinning for, and the more time, the more stash you accumulate, and the more hand spun yarns sit in your stash, that it's almost like they get untwisted. They just relax a bit. And so I find, especially for socks, I often want to tighten up the twist. I talked about that when I finished my Into the World socks about a month ago. I think the shows at the beginning of January, I talked about that. Maybe it was the second show in January. I can't remember what episode that was, 86, 87. I talked about that I wish that I had replied it before I knit with it. All right. So I think we're going to move on from that because we ended up on that for a bit, which is great. I love all the questions. This is why live stream is so valuable. You guys can hop right in and ask questions that I wouldn't have even thought to talk about. So I really, really appreciate how engaged you guys are, because this is how we learn, right? There's no mistakes. It's just learning. And, the more that we talk to one another and the more that we share ideas, the more we can learn. And otherwise, we're never going to get better, right? So I think that's awesome. All right. Get that out of the way. I'm going to talk about this next because I've got it pulled up on my phone, and I'll switch around my product view and so that you guys can really see it. This is a bunch of cotton that I've been spinning. I haven't talked about this on the show because I've been working on it kind of on the side. I've been using my little baby bobbins that I got as part of my lace flyer for my Majacraft Susie. And I've been spinning up some, I think it's called Pakora. It's from Vegan Yarn. Let me grab the bag. Got all this stuff here. So this is from my friend Heidi Brax of Vegan Yarn. She was on Woolen Spinning Radio. I interviewed her. She's a friend of mine. She's just awesome. I'll show that up close so you guys can see it. So this is, all of this cotton is, it's called like Pakora or something like that. Anyways, this is FIFO. So it's actually like, it's a natural colorway. So this cotton is naturally this color. It wasn't dyed, which oh my goodness, this color, I love it. So I saved 2 of these bags of the brown because I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. So what I did was I have all of this cotton in my stash that I've kind of been like accumulating, and I wanted to combine it and spin it sort of relatively together because I didn't have enough for one project. Like I'd end up with like, if I spun it all separately, I'd end up with like these little baby skeins. So I made a bag and I just divided it all up and threw it in there. And this was actually totally inspired by my friend Heidi, who did this as well. She had all these like little like cotton enders and she didn't know what to do with them. And so she started spinning them up and she made this like haphazard kind of semi-marled skein. This was really interesting. This was a really interesting spin. There was some bleached cotton in there. My hair is driving me crazy. There's some bleached cotton, some naturally colored cotton. So that's the brown and the green that you can see in there. I think it's right in there. There was some naturally white cotton that was sort of like a taupey brown, very, very pale brown, almost like a champagne color. And then some Pima cotton, which has a real sheen to it. This is actually a little bit, it's still a bit damp. And it's not particularly pretty yarn. I spun it long draw. It's quite inconsistent. There's some areas that, like even plying it, there's some areas that like don't have as much ply twist. I had my 2 bobbins and they were actually totally full. And I think part of it is because they have such a big center core that full was sort of deceiving. And I've ended up with 160 yards, I think, of finished yarn. And this took me like 2 weeks to spin. It took forever. And I worked on this for like hours. So really labor intensive. And my plan for this was, let me see if I can pull it up here, was this shawl. Oh shoot. Here we go. I had it all like pulled up and ready to go and then it just like disappeared. So this is called this is by Naturally Nora. And this is a crocheted shawl. And it's really pretty. And it uses sport weight yarn. And I think it's knit in... no, I don't not like it because it's not consistent. I don't love it because it's cotton. I'm not a big cotton fan. I don't love it. But I really want to explore lots of stuff outside of just wool. So I'm sort of pushing myself this year to sort of rummage around in all this stuff that, in some of these fibers that aren't second nature to me and I can't just sit down and spin, that I actually have to spend some time kind of delving in and really like getting my teeth into it. And it's not fast. So even though it's long draw, it's not a fast spin. You know, one of the things that us spinners always love to say, once you learn how to do it, long draw is super fast. Especially when you can start spinning unsupported long draw. So that's where you're adding the twist and your drafting hand literally just pulls back and feeds onto the machine and then feeds back and pulls onto the machine, and you're not even doing anything with your other hand. It's just a really fast way of spinning and you can fill a bobbin like that. This is not like that. This takes a lot of treadling, a lot of twist, and it's just not that fast. It's just a very slow, tedious way of spinning. Great word, Linda. And I really enjoyed it, but I'm not sure I want to make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of yards. So the pattern calls for 320 yards, and I have 160 yards spun. So like I'm like barely halfway. And so I'm thinking what I'm going to do is actually sample. I'm going to do a knitted swatch, a crocheted swatch using the pattern's stitch, like the stitch pattern from the pattern. And I'm also going to do a woven swatch just to see what it looks like. And then I'll keep spinning because I have the whole bag left to go. I don't know if this is going to give me enough yardage. This isn't that much that's left. Although it feels like a lot, it's actually not. And I'm just going to see how it goes. Because like I said, it's quite tedious spinning and it's taking me forever. It's just like the spin that won't end. And I have to admit, it's not wool, so it's not my favorite to spin. It's beautifully prepped. The green spins. Oh my goodness, the green just spins so beautifully. I could spin an entire shawl worth of the green. It really spins nicely. The brown's a little bit sticky. It's another type of plant, another cotton plant. It's a little bit sticky, and it needs a lot of twist. So I find I have to slow down when I get to the brown and really like. But I think the effect of having the different natural colors in there will be really neat. To finish cotton, you have to boil it. So this is fully boiled, and then I just hung it to dry. I didn't snap it or anything because it was hot, and I didn't have my mitts on, my rubber gloves. I should have. So yeah, you boil it, and actually the water was quite dirty when I finished it. And I think it's from just the resin that comes off of the cotton. And particularly from the brown. And the nice thing about it, the brown and the green, is once it's boiled, they get a bit darker, which is kind of neat to watch and to see. So it's kind of cool. I really enjoyed spinning. So I really enjoyed spinning the green, and I really enjoyed spinning the desert color, which is this color here. And it's not a true white. And then this was the bleached stuff, which was okay to spin. It was okay. It wasn't as sticky as the brown. The Pima was the hardest, probably. It really wants to, the whole thing wants to take up the twist. So as soon as I would draw back, the twist would run up into the fiber, and it was really hard to untwist it. And because I've spun it before and I knew what to expect, the brown was the hardest to spin because it's the shortest stapled of all of them. But it's my favorite. I just love this color. So my friend Heidi had spun and knit a shawl using this same technique where she combined all these different natural colored cottons, and the finished shawl is just beautiful. So that's why I'm kind of pirating from her a little bit. But I really want to make this shawl. It's been on my queue for like 2 years now. I've had the pattern forever, and I really wanted to make it. So I'm just trying something new. Delving into some new stuff, which is good. Yes, so Cindy's asking about boiling. Yes, I boiled at the end. Heidi talks about how to finish some of these yarns on the interview on that I had her on the show on Wool and Spinning Radio. And yeah, we need to boil the cotton. So I did boil it. So, and Becca's wondering what ratio did I spin it at? I spun it at 20.4 to 1. So basically 20 to 1. And next time, so for the rest of this, I'm actually going to go up to 28.1, 28.5, 28.1, something like that. It's 28 to 1 on my Susie. It just needs so much twist and so much treadling. And I tend to be a slow treadler, so I start to slow down. The more my hands are doing, the slower I treadle. So I'm going to go up to a higher ratio. You can make, so Eve is wondering if it would have been easier if it was in roll leg form. If I'd made cotton poonies, maybe. These are really nice preps, these comb tops that I have, so I didn't want to mess with the prep too much, and I didn't want to spend a ton of time making them into poonie style, like into little cotton poonies. I don't think it would have been that much better or that different. I think the reality is spinning cotton, the learning curve is significant, and it just takes time to learn more than anything. Eve is wondering, as an aside, would you say Scotch tension or double drive is better for long draw? So I've done both. So double drive is a different way of driving your wheel. It's a direct drive system. It's where your drive band is in a figure 8, and it goes once around your drive wheel, and then it goes once around your whirl, and then around your drive wheel and around your whirl. And so around the bobbin and around the whirl, and then around the bobbin and around the whirl. And it's a figure 8 if you were to lay it out and lay it flat. So it goes once around the drive wheel. Sorry, as it goes around the drive wheel, it goes once around the bobbin, comes around, goes around once around the ratio or the whirl, sorry, and then back around the bobbin and so on. And it's a figure 8. Some people love double drive. Some people hate double drive. Double drive can be really finicky. I've spun a lot in double drive. I had a wheel that did double drive that I don't have anymore. But I would often go back and forth between double drive and Scotch tension. Scotch tension is kind of like the universal tension now. Most wheels do Scotch tension unless it's a Louette wheel, which is probably be Irish tension, which I'm not going to talk about today. But you sort of, most wheels that you come across are in Scotch tension. Most people are taught how to spin in Scotch tension. I have in the past spun in both. I use both for long draw. I really don't have any personal affinity for one over the other. The only thing I will say is the bigger the drive wheel, the better double drive works. The smaller the drive wheel, the more difficult it is to get double drive to work, because there needs to be a difference in the ratio of that's on the bobbin and the ratio that's on the wheel. And if the closer these two become, the harder it is to get your uptake just right in double drive, because in double drive you want to have your pull on be equal in force to your pull off. So when you're feeding the yarn or the singles into the wheel onto the bobbin, you want to be able to pull off with the same force and be able to sort of have that, not because you're going to, but that's sort of what you're looking for in double drive. The closer the whirl on your bobbin and the closer the whirl on your wheel are, the harder it is to find that place. It's either pulling really hard or it's not pulling at all. So when you're first starting on double drive, you want to start with a larger whirl on your wheel, and then of course your bobbin whirl is set, so that you have a difference and you can kind of get the feel of the two. So it can be really finicky. Double drive can be finicky. It's a great drive mechanism. Like, it's a great way to drive your wheel. If you don't have it, it's not a big deal. If you do and you want to play with it, great. But you don't have to have it for a long draw. A lot of people love double drive for long draw because you can really get into a routine and sort of a dance. Can you do that on Scotch tension? Absolutely. It's just personal preference more than anything, and does your wheel do it? Yeah, I hope that answers that question, Eve. All right. Yeah, people are spinning on Sharkas for cotton. I would love to spin on one, but I haven't had a chance yet. Yeah, there's so many different things. I mean, some people spin cotton, but they only spin it on their little tackly spindles. It's really cool. All right, let's move on. I have a fun new acquisition to show you. This is kind of, well, I've been thinking about this for a really long time. And I decided to take the plunge when we made such a huge advancement. I don't know, when we hit the most recent Patreon milestone. I dyed this fiber back in November of 2015, I think. And I thought that I had fooled it, and I thought that I had ruined it because I was quite aggressive with it when I was dyeing it. And I didn't realize at the time what I was doing. I had just taken that course at Maiwa, for those who've been around for a really long time. I took a dyeing course at Maiwa, and I just didn't know what I didn't know. And I was really aggressive with it, and I think I sort of folded a little bit. Anyway, so I put it in my stash, and I didn't touch it for forever. I gave some to my friend Chrissy to play with, and I just sort of left it. Anyways, it's a, what's the blend? So it's 55% merino, which I think is superwash merino. Otherwise, this would be like steel. It would not be pulling apart at all. 20% alpaca, which I think is what fulled. 20% nylon and 5% sock. And this is a blend that Birkeland Brothers, which is a shop local to me, brings in. And this is my spinner's control card. So those are my singles, and then that's my plied yarn. And I'm not sure if I'm going to 3-ply this yarn yet, or if I'm going to do a 2-ply. I'm kind of playing around with that. I'm really curious about what this yarn might be like as socks, but I'm also really curious about what these colors would look like as a shawl. So we'll see. Anyhow, I dyed this up, and I just poured the dye on, so it's sort of very interestingly dyed, because there's no rhyme or reason to it. I just poured on the dye. I had no idea what I was doing. I would never be able to recreate this. There's no way. And this is all I have. So I think I have about, did I weigh this? I didn't weigh it. I suspect this is in total about half a pound, maybe just shy. anyways, it's really pretty, and I decided to pull it out and play with it and get it spun up. So I divided it in half. So this is the one bump, and the other bump is spun. So this is what it looks like in singles form. And I spun the singles at 28 wraps per inch, because I'm aiming for a roughly 18 wraps per inch finished yarn, maybe 16 wraps per inch, probably more like it. And you can see that these bobbins I've never shown before. These are different bobbins. And so I'm going to share with you what it's not going to sit there. It's going to keep rolling away. I want it to roll. Anyways, these are huge bobbins. They're not as big as my Handsome mini spinner bobbins were, but I'm not going to switch cameras, Eve, because I'm actually going to flip to a totally different view. So you guys can see. So I bought an e-spinner. I had ordered this a couple weeks ago. I have several reasons for doing so and for ordering an e-spinner. So if you guys have followed me for a while, you'll remember a few years ago I had a Handsome mini spinner, and I spun on that for about 6 months, and then I sold it. I actually sold it to a friend of mine who really needed it because she can't treadle very much anymore. And I was really on the fence for the past year and a half about maybe getting an e-spinner again, but I really didn't want to pay for another Hanson. They've gone up quite a bit in price, and I wasn't interested in paying that again, especially because they're priced in US dollars. So like for the Canadian exchange, it gets really pricey really fast, plus shipping on top of it. So the reason for getting an e-spinner is because of the amount that I'm spinning. You guys have been around for a while. You guys know how much I spin and what I'm making and stuff. And this is all like big volume stuff. Like this is not a little bit of fiber. This is like, you know, over half a pound. And then I've got my Disdero Ranch spin that I've been working on for the Hap spin. And I've just got all these spins. It's a lot of time sitting. So like I'm sitting when I'm knitting, I'm sitting if I'm at my loom, which I haven't been weaving a lot lately, which I know some of you have noticed, because I really enjoy weaving, and I haven't done any since Christmas, since before Christmas actually. And so on my like spinning wheels, like I'm between knitting, weaving, and spinning. And then if I sew at all, which I haven't sewn a lot recently, I'm sitting all the time. And I'm finding it, I'm very aware of it. And I think there's been like a mental shift for me over the last couple of months. I'm very aware of how much I'm sitting. And I think it's because I'm driving a lot now. And then I'm sitting and spinning. I'm sitting and knitting. I'm waiting for the kids at like soccer, swimming. I play piano, so I'm sitting at the piano. Like I'm sitting all the time. And I was really finding that I was almost feeling a bit like, not resentful or anything, but I was feeling a bit frustrated with how much I was sitting. And I kept coming back to the idea of being able to spin and stand. So this is sitting on our kitchen counter. And that is how I spun this in under 2 weeks. I just standing there at the counter, spinning while waiting for the kettle to boil, waiting for the rice to boil or cook, helping the kids with something and talking to them while they're doing whatever it is that they're doing. All of that stuff is all why I sort of, decided to switch to something that I could stand and do, because it's just I'm just sitting too much. We're gonna switch this whole setup to be a standing desk as well, so that I can stand. So Eve is wondering, does treadling not count as exercise? No, it doesn't. It's not enough. I'm probably sitting like 3 or 4 hours a day right now, and I'm just finding it's a bit much. So the only thing about the electric spinner that I'm sort of getting used to again, and it's the reason why I got rid of my Hanson, it's the reason why I didn't like enjoy spinning on an electric spinner as much. There's no ratios, there's no whirls, there's no way of figuring out your twist per inch and your apps, and doing all of that mathematical stuff. So I've been playing around with where the speed knob is. And then that's why I did this ply back test, so that I would know, just let me refocus this, so that I would know sort of roughly how many twists per inch I was if I drafted a certain number back from the wheel itself. If I draft back 4 times and it's set at this speed, this is how much twist is going in, and this is what the yarn is that I'm getting. Because same as with my Hanson, my yarns were always underspun. So I found immediately I have to be more aggressive about how fast I'm allowing the wheel to spin. So the first couple of days I had it at like 11 o'clock, the speed knob, and I'm already up to like 2-3 o'clock because I realized that I'm drafting a lot faster than twist is going into the yarn. So that's been interesting. I'll talk about that more in shows to come. Standing and spindling, yes. So I have a spindle project that I started this past week, and I forgot to bring it down to show you guys. So yeah, definitely spindling. I wanted to be able to production spin. I wanted to be able to speed everything up and be able to like produce a huge amount of yarn really, really quite quickly. So hence going with an electric spinner again, because on my Hanson, I did produce a lot of yarn. So that's why I kept going back to it again and again and again. The other thing that I have been working on, and I'll just pull it up here to show you guys. I can move cameras around again if my mouse comes back. Where's my mouse? Is my Disdero spin, my Disdero Ranch spin. I've been working on this quite a bit. So this, again, I'm sitting a huge amount, and it's like, 1.5 pounds. But I've been spinning on this quite a lot, and I've been working a lot on my short forward with this spin because I've been really trying to get this done. So I've been hammering it out. I'm actually in this video, I'm actually at my mom's house. My parents, we've been going over, me and Nora, during the day a couple times a week because my mom has a huge like games room art studio kind of thing, and Nora can get into everything, and she can play, and she can look through all the boxes, and it's really great for her to be able to sort of look around and get into stuff. And I've been able to get a ton of spinning done on this. So I am actually, this is all I have left, which looks like a lot, but it's actually half of what I had, because I hadn't really worked on this since going away in November. I had sort of stopped working on it very much, and I was really getting a bit bogged down with it because this is my hap spin. So I'm really hoping, fingers crossed, that I will have a hap to knit on this summer. So I would love an e-spinner for plying. Yeah, Suzanne, I think a lot of people do end up buying an e-spinner for plying because they find that the bobbins are big, it's fast, they can get a lot done in a relatively short period of time. I totally get that. My Hanson I did a lot of plying on. I always found, I'd be very interested to hear from others because I know Jess of Ravelry, her and I had a couple of really big conversations on Instagram about it. My yarns were always underplied on my Hanson. I always had to put them back through. So I'm wondering if that's going to happen again with my Ashford. Because the Ashford did end up being a little bit more, like it did end up being affordable. I've just stuck a bunch of hair in my eye. The Ashford e-spinner is a little bit more affordable. It comes with 3 bobbins, a Lazy Kate, but it's not as fancy as the Hanson. Like the pedal that you use to turn on and off, it's a guitar pedal. And it doesn't have, like, it slows down when it's coming to a stop, and then it slowly gets up to speed, but it's not as smooth as the Hanson. The Hanson's definitely a really beautiful spinner. But you pay for it. So it's nice to know that there are a lot of different products on the market, and there's lots of different things to pick from. And it really depends on what you're looking for and how much you want to spend, and what's important to you. The nice thing about the Ashford e-spinner, it comes with a bag, and it all, like, everything fits into the bag really beautifully. I'll post a photo of that in the show notes, and you guys can see, because I did take a photo of it for insurance purposes. I think that's kind of it for today. Like that, we've kind of come to the end of the show. I talked sort of quickly, but I got a lot done this week, because like I got, all of this done, but I have been reading a ton. I have my head in like 3 different books. If anybody hasn't read the book Mindset by, I think her name's Karen Dweck. It's awesome. I'm reading it for the second time. I've read it before, and then I'm reading it again. And I've been listening to a bunch of podcasts, because there's a couple of like fitness sort of minded podcasts that I found that are very science-based, and I'm really enjoying those. So I've been kind of distracted with other stuff. I'm reading Sapiens right now, which I've read before, but I'm reading it again. And I'm reading The Whole Brain Child. For those with kids, that book is incredible. The Whole Brained Child. It's by Daniel Siegel, I think his name is, and he's co-written it with somebody who's a child behavioral psychologist or something like that. Anyways, incredible books. So I've kind of got my like working on all this stuff right now. So that's not knitting. I haven't really been knitting at all. I only knit at James's soccer practice and at swimming. I haven't really been doing a whole lot. So anyhow, I'll have a quick look in the chat channel. I think you guys are pretty quiet in there. Does anybody have any questions about this spin, or about the Ashford, or about the Disdero spin, or anything like that? I'm just waiting for the camera to come back into focus. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. It's a long weekend here in Canada, here in British Columbia. The rest of Canada is off next weekend, but they put the BC long weekend for February on this weekend, 1 week earlier than Alberta, so that the mountains that are on the BC-Alberta border wouldn't be busy for skiing and snowboarding. Like, can you believe it? So our long weekend is this weekend, and then the rest of the country is off next weekend. So crazy. So James has actually 2 days off, so he's got a 4-day weekend, which would be really good. We need a break, and we've got family coming into town, which is wonderful. So we've got color studies going on in the group. I hope you guys are working away on that. I'm going to have some reflections on that yarn coming up in March, and then we'll be into the spring. We'll be starting our next breed and color study. I feel like it's come up too soon this time. If it feels that way for you guys as well, we can always delay it by a couple of months. If you guys want to do that sort of in a couple of months, if you haven't sort of gotten through this one yet, I just need to hear from you guys, and you can drive that ship, if you will. Oh, Rebecca just popped in. So hi, Rebecca. You guys all know her from the Wool and Spinning Radio. She was on, I think she was on with Becca last month? Was it last month? Anyways, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, like I said, and until next time, happy spinning, everyone. Bye.